calling all instructional coaches, curriculum specialists, teachers on special assignment, or whatever they call you. I'm Matteo Souza.
And I'm Katie Ritter. As instructional coaches, we are often responsible for our own professional learning and can sometimes feel pretty isolated in our role.
That's why we're here, bridging the gap with a wealth of tips, tricks, and building a community of coaches.
So hit the restart button with us.
Recharge your coaching batteries.
And hopefully you'll leave feeling just a little bit less on your own coaching island.
Welcome back to Restart Recharge. This is part 2 of our conversation on aligning coaches and administrators. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, now would be a good time to pause and go back to that episode. But if you've already listened to it, here's a quick recap. In part 1, we set the stage for a collaborative workshop aimed at improving the relationship and communication between instructional coaches and administrators. We heard from Tyler Erwin about the goals of the workshop and from Torie Mollett about some of the eye-opening moments she experienced as a participant. Now, in part 2, we're going to take a closer look at the specific activities and strategies used in the workshop and hear how the experience impacted the participants and their districts. Stay with us, stay tuned, and have fun. I do want to dig a little bit deeper into the actual activities and the things that we've done, because I'm sure our listeners would love to know what were the actual things that we were doing there. Tyler, you sat down, you planned a lot of this stuff. Was there a particular framework that you thought is very impactful, or was there one activity that you noticed the room was buzzing and they were having a good time? And I'm not overselling it, Katie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, I think there were two that stand out. It was a pretty fast-paced session overall. One is we did have the coach sit down with their building and district level administrators and come up with a communication cadence. Maybe that hadn't been established before, but something as simple as, which method do you prefer that I contact you with? Text, email, phone call, stopping in person in your office, having a meeting, and then how often? On the building level, how often should we meet so we can have a good back and forth and keep everything aligned? Same with the district. So I think that was a really nice activity, and just like giving them the space to talk through that and come up with, hey, here's when we're going to meet. Here's the cadence. Here's the method we're going to use. And then we encouraged everyone to schedule their first meeting together post workshop. So I think that was really nice. The second activity that stands out goes back to something that I mentioned earlier, but we gave each small group at each of our tables a very non-tech oriented goal. As mentioned, all of our coaches are instructional technology focused. And we had them with the administrators at their table come up with different ways the coach could support that district initiative or district goal. So in this case, we were kind of talking about like community engagement, community outreach, and there's so many things that like a coach can do to support that, whether it's training teachers on how to use and create video-based content to engage the community in new ways, or integrating QR codes into things like senior night to pop up information about that student athlete. There were a lot of great ideas that came out of that brainstorm, but I think that the aha moment from that was, oh, I don't just have to keep feeding the instructional coach very overtly, very clearly technology related things. They don't have to be just the keeper of all things learning management system or Google Workspace or rostering new tech tools that we purchase. They can utilize their skill set in a lot of ways to support the bigger, more important goals that the district is trying to accomplish. Giving them time and space to brainstorm on ways that the coach can support at different levels, as well as coming up with that communication cadence, I think was two of the activities that were most beneficial to everybody who attended.
Yeah, fantastic.
And Matthias, since you asked, I also want to chime in and say that we've done that same activity with all types of coaches using the same common goals. So if it's a non-tech coach listening to this episode, or you also work in tandem with other general instructional coaches or literacy coaches, that's a great activity to do to really kind of work to align your work across instructional coaches and understand how everyone can be rowing in the same direction toward like non-overtly literacy or tech or math goal itself, but how are we all working within our own domains to advance those goals forward. Torie, I want to touch on one other activity we did, but if it's something that stood out to you, I don't want to steal the thunder. Was there any particular activity outside of what Tyler mentioned that you felt like was beneficial to advancing the conversation between you and your admin?
We had the same brain on that one. It was specifically the time to sit down and be like, this is how we are going to communicate, how often we're going to communicate. The time and the structure to do that was really just revolutionary for
Isn't
us.
that so funny? Because I feel like we think we've probably done that in the past. Like, hey,
Mhm.
can we meet? Can we have a regular meeting?
Yeah.
But actually defining and carving out that time to sit down to even just understand how do they want you to communicate with them. So that was definitely an interesting aha for me to observe, like how beneficial that conversation alone and carving out the time has been. The one thing that I would like to touch on that I think is really important that kind of set the stage for the rest of the activities that you all have described was the time that we spent clarifying and defining the role of a coach. And not just what the role of a coach is, but what the role of a coach is not. Because I think so often admins see coaches as this extra body that doesn't have a classroom that they have to be tending to and teaching. So it's easy to throw them in to do this extra duty, to give them the roster responsibility and all of the things that you described, Tyler. But I think clearly understanding first and foremost, like Torie, you mentioned all of the data and research behind coaching. None of those successful outcomes can be achieved if the coach isn't actually coaching. The coach can't actually coach when the admin are pouring all of these non-coaching responsibilities onto the coach. So I also think the collaborative defining and understanding of what a coach is and isn't was, in my perspective, a key way to set up for the remainder of conversations to structure our frame of reference of what these really powerful individuals can and should be doing within the context of our districts and supporting teachers.
I think we've done a good job outlining what this workshop looked like and what the activities were. We're going to take a quick break and then start talking a little bit what happened after the workshop and what next steps look like.
Looking for a program that reaches all teachers and learning new tools to integrate in their lessons? Edu Badges is the answer. Edu is an anytime, anywhere badging program that is designed to take bite-sized tools for instruction and teach teachers how to use them. Edu has received the ISTE Seal of Alignment for educator standards, and each badge in our expanding library is aligned to the ISTE standards and the SAMR model. Learn more about the program that teachers call addicting at forward-edge.net/edubadges.
Unlock the full potential of instructional coaching with Forward Edge, your partner in professional growth. Instructional coaches play a vital role in supporting teachers, students, and administrators across the district. And research consistently highlights coaching as a powerful catalyst for improved teacher instruction and enhanced student achievement. But here's the question: who's supporting the coach? Enter Forward Edge, your dedicated ally in professional development. Our flexible mentorship options, recognized by the ISTE Seal of Alignment, are tailored to meet your unique needs as an instructional coach. So ready to elevate your coaching journey? Visit forward-edge.net to explore how we can empower you with the knowledge and support you need. Start your journey with us today.
Welcome back, dear listeners. We are here with Tyler and Torie talking about the admin coach workshop that was recently held here and organized by us to connect coaches and admin to get the most out of each other and make the needle move for your community and your district. We talked a little bit about the setup. We talked a little bit where we ended up by the end of the session. Now let's talk about what happened afterwards. Tyler, can you tell us about the feedback that you received, the next steps that you foresee this taking for the program?
Yeah, I can speak on that briefly. We did have everyone in attendance, both the coaches and the administrators, submit feedback. A lot of that feedback was, did you find value in the workshop content? Do you feel more confident in your respective roles moving forward? How do you look to possibly change the way that you've worked as an admin in the coach-admin relationship, or vice versa as the coach? The feedback was overwhelmingly positive. The biggest thing I noticed was that everyone left feeling more confident in their specific role and kind of in their lane as to how they were going to be supporting instruction, the goals of the district. The coaches felt like their role was a lot more clarified. The district administrators left feeling really empowered to give our instructional coaches more things to support, more things to work on, more things to breathe new life into. In addition to that, I sent out a feedback form to all of our district administrators who could not attend. Not everyone's going to be able to attend. Everyone's schedules are so hectic. They overlap with different things. So I wanted to kind of know from the majority of folks who couldn't attend, like, what was it? Was it the day, the time, the content? What would be worthwhile if we did something like this again? So I think that both polling the people in attendance and those who couldn't come was very insightful for me as we just try and make the job of our coaches a little easier, a little clearer, but also that much more impactful. And I think that it's all based off of these solid relationships and building that connection from the ground up. Those were two types of feedback we collected that I know were very important and insightful for Torie and I as we looked at it after the fact.
Torie, what did it look like after the session for you? The session concluded and you had your experiences. What happened afterwards? Was it success? What changed?
It really just felt like my purpose came back into focus in my eyes and in the eyes of my administrators. He was like, I'll see you Monday morning, 7:05 a.m. Let's talk about next steps. There I was, Monday morning, 7:05, and we were talking about what our communication is going to look like going forward, how we're going to communicate this to the rest of the administrators so that we're all on the same page, how we can communicate these things to teacher leaders, and even how I can help out with the big influx of brand new baby teachers we have in our district. So it was a real, let's sit down, let's talk about this, let's set up for success going forward. I think it was really interesting for my admin because he looked at me a couple of times during the session. He was like, you can do that? And I was like, I can do that if you would like that help. So it's going to fall through the cracks, but hearing it in a different space and then seeing it in action and just really realizing what coaches can bring to the table, aside from even the technology piece of I can fix your new line board because you're struggling in the middle of your classroom. It just looked like everything came back into a perfect focus, getting me into classrooms, getting me into administrative meetings, and setting up a structure for what my coaching will look like going forward and how I can be among the leaders in the building to help that trickle down effect from admin to teacher to student. It was really invigorating, honestly. Afterwards, it made my heart kind of burst because I was like, I feel like I have a true purpose again. I know that I've been kind of trucking along and the work is important, but this feels concrete. This feels real. And it's been awesome.
You had an X on the map that you were sailing toward. What would both of you see as iteration 2, or not even iteration 2 of this workshop, but like 102 version? So this was 101. What would be like class 2 that who might you include? What types of conversations might you have? Torie, I feel like you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into that idea.
I think it goes to teacher leaders as well, bringing them into the classroom. It might be worthwhile to get some of the younger teachers in there to be talking about how your tech coach can help things from curriculum to the integration of technology into the classroom. Having the admin on board, great, we've already got that done, but bringing in people in the classrooms every day with their struggles, with what they're seeing, that could be a beneficial conversation.
That's great. Tyler, I don't know if you have anything to add from your perspective on that.
No, I just think that, one of the obstacles we faced with getting a bunch of administrators together is how hectic their schedules are. At least right now, teacher schedules are a bit more predictable. Pulling them from the classroom is never easy, but I feel like that's the next step. In many cases, your really impactful, influential teachers can have just as big of an impact on the success of a coach. When you see a rock star teacher taking advantage of the coaching services and benefiting from it, it instills confidence in everyone else who works right alongside that teacher that like, oh, if I do the same, I'm probably going to benefit too. He or she's really obviously getting great results from working with this coach. So maybe that's something I should try. And so I feel like that's kind of like the next step in all of this, like Torie said, is teachers and tapping into the influence they have, I think would even like further crystallize the role of a coach and snowball that momentum. We're drumming up some ideas on how we might get teachers looped in and possibly engage them in something similar for our teacher leaders across all the districts we serve. I just feel like they have such a weight amongst their peers that we want to take advantage of that. We want them to be advocates of us, just like we're advocates of them.
I think this was so illuminating to hear, not just like from a planning perspective and from you for admin perspective, what it was like to build this out and have that experience for everybody, but also hearing from Torie what a great experience you had at the end and how well it worked out. So that's really awesome. I think we're going to wrap with our top 3 tips. What do you think? 3 each? Because
We'll see.
I'll make
Whatever you want. You can combine your 3. You can do your own 3. We'll see what you got for us. But
Okay.
yeah,
Sounds-
top 3 tips to help coaches and admin get on the same page.
So I'll start. I think that this may not be an event that's feasible for you to host in the capacity that you have, but tip number 1 would just be work to clarify your role in whatever way that means. Tip number 2 would be, you saw the impact it had for Torie, so maybe I'm stealing one of your tips, Torie, but just figure out a communication cadence. Sometimes we feel like we've done that and it's assumed, but it's never really been established. And then I would say the third thing would be get creative with some ways you can support things outside of your immediate scope of influence. If you're a literacy coach, math coach, tech coach, data coach, whatever, there are so many things you can do to be a leader in the school and to support things that aren't clearly in your lane. And I think that it just kind of expands your sphere of influence. So get creative, do some brainstorming, and find ways you can embed yourself in all the great things happening in your school.
Awesome. Torie?
You didn't steal any of mine, so that's good.
Good.
So my first tip is be very empathetic to the situations of your admin. It can be disheartening sometimes when you feel like you're saying things over and over again, but they might not hear you because they've got a million other problems that are very loud at that present time. Be empathetic to their situation and understand that it's not a you thing. It's not anything to do with you or your practice. Step into their shoes. But on that note, be very persistent. You're going to have days where it might be harder than others. You might not be as busy as you want to be with projects, but you can find those. So continue being present in your building, being in the classrooms, being in the office where people can see you and know who you are. Don't ever give up on that. And then I think this is really important for my specific instance. Lean on your relationships, because I don't believe that the output of this workshop would have been as impactful if I hadn't had such a sturdy relationship with my admin. They knew me, they knew who I am, they know my personality, they know I love to joke, and they know I love a story to tell and all of that. So we had that foundation, but having that present really bolstered everything that came after. So lean on those relationships just like you would with a student and build on top of that.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Once again, thank you so much, the two of you. Before we let you go, where can people find you on the intertubes and the social webs?
On the intertube, I am at Torie Teaches.
Wonderful.
And on X, Twitter, whatever it is these days, I am at EdTech Tyler. You can find me there, especially for all of your best Bengals content. That's the place to check me out.
And we've circled back around. Take it from the top.
That is a full, beautiful framing. I like that.
Awesome. We've officially rebranded Twitter X to Intertube.
Yes, it is the intertubes. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for spending time with us today. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with an educator friend.
And connect with us on social media at RRCoachCast to let us know what you thought of the episode and what topics you want us to discuss next.
New episodes drop every other Tuesday. Be sure to subscribe to Restart Recharge wherever you listen to podcasts.
So press the restart button.
Recharge your coaching batteries and leave feeling equipped and inspired to coach fearlessly with the Restart Recharge podcast.
A Tech Coach Collective.